The Mayo Experience.
That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience Week 7 rankings, breakdown, and debate. If you out there want to get into a draw for 20 DK dollars, toi, le con français, comme en français, ways to do so. 1, smash the like button for the episode, leave your DraftKings handle in the comment section, and tell me your favorite sleeper wide receiver for the Week 7 Fantasy Football Week. That easy. Way number 2 to do so, the easiest way to win one of these draws, because frankly no one does it, and it's the most important to keeping the show free, is leave a 5-star audio review for the audio podcast. Subscribe to it while you're up there anyway. There's bonus content on the podcast feed. All the stuff that gets cut out of the video version goes up on the audio feed, so there's some fun stuff that you may miss if you're only watching the video. So subscribe to the Pat Mayo audio podcast, 5-star review, something nice about the show, DraftKings handle, boom, you'll be in that draw for 20 DK bucks. Also, the race for 10,000 Instagram followers is on. I'm halfway there. I want to get up to 10,000 before the end of football season so I can monetize the account, which is apparently like the level that you need to get to. Then I'll just have ads all over your feed. You can probably unfollow after that. But follow me at the PME. Heart one of the sports photos that goes up there. Leave your DraftKings handle in the comment section. Boom. You too will be in a draw for 20 DK bucks. I will announce winners live on Monday's show every single Monday. Waiver Wire recap, NFL recap, look ahead to Monday night and Thursday night football, 1 p.m. Eastern time on the DraftKings YouTube channel, up later on said audio feeds. All right, enough of that. Jake Ciely from The Athletic is on the line. What's going on, my man?
Not too much. It's weeks almost halfway through already.
Does it? Maybe it's me, and maybe this just feels the same way every single year, but I was talking with someone like the other day, that this season seems to really be flying by. Like normally, I can't remember what point it is during the season when I just absolutely turn on football and hate it so much, but I feel like it's usually before this, but I'm still like fired up, ready. I think I'm having like an all right year, so I'm like fired up again. Last year was horrible. This year, going better, so I think I have the enthusiasm once again.
Yeah, I understand that from a different way. Like I never get tired of firing up and watching on TV. It's like that point where you get to the same questions and you're just like, oh my God, it's the same questions over and over and over and over and again. But I kind of took from your example, and at the top of my articles now, I post a link to the trade advice and the weather breakdown and stuff, so I could just reference it instead of answering the same question every single week. So you've actually saved me some work. Thank you, Pat. But here's where I feel like it's not really like it's going so quick, because like Waiver Wire really feels like it more barren than it ever has by week 7 in years past. And maybe that's just a weird perspective, but I don't remember it ever feeling like week 7. I can't believe we're talking about Jason Witten as a top pickup type stuff.
Yeah, it's twofold, really. One, there's been a lack of gigantic top-end injuries. Like, the only really big one that we've had that people blew their waiver budget on was Wayne Gallman when Saquon Barkley went down. But I think we're just seeing that once I release the snap shares every single Monday, and you look at them, there's like 4 running backs that get over 80% of their team snap shares. There's so many committees that even if one guy does go down, it doesn't necessarily translate onto the next guy like it used to 2, 3, 4 years ago. Like, even if Dalvin Cook goes out this week and he's out for the season, yeah, Madison becomes the number 1 pickup. That's not to say that he's going to play 90% of the snaps. Abdullah probably plays 40% with the way things go now.
Yeah, and that's the big thing too, is it's not just everything you just said. On top of that, a lot of these guys are already owned. So I usually in my waiver column, I have droppables. This is the first week at running back. I said, there's really nobody you can drop right now. Like, if you really want to make a case for Kenyon Drake for the fact that they're starting to give Walton touches, I mean, I guess if you're desperate, you can, but we're already at the point now where it's like, who are you dropping? Because you need to own everybody who's at least getting 30-40% of the snaps, because otherwise, who else are you dropping? You're dropping handcuffs, and that's really all that's out there now.
Even players like Chase Edmonds, he's widely available on waiver wires. And when I say widely available, he's available in like 60% of leagues. That's really about it. And like in years past, Chase Edmonds just straight up would not be owned.
No, and that's the case with a lot of them. Like Raquel Armstead is owned in a lot of leagues now because people are smartly investing in these guys who would have a heavy workload. Like Madison's been not highly to the point of 60+%, but in that 40 to 50% range for weeks on end now.
If you had to rank the handcuffs for the rest of the season, like the best ones to own in case someone plays in a shallow league out there, a 10-team, maybe a thin 12-team league. Thin, like a Twizzler. It's not small. However, that's like twice
That's
in
2 weeks in a
Yeah,
row.
2 weeks in a row. I mean, if you can drop any sort of Deuce Bigelow references, you got to jam them in. It's only on the Pat Mayo Experience that this is still a movie that carries some water. However, it's like Armstead, Madison. I know there's Edmonds, I guess, is definitely one that would be up there too. Like, who are the
Pollard.
other? Yeah, Pollard, Gallman.
I would say Gallman if he's back and healthy. I really do think that Gus Edwards, if anything happened to Mark Ingram, would see a lot more than Justice Hill, though Justice Hill would be sprinkled in more than he is now. And after that, I mean, it gets really like Gio, yeah, he should be, but I mean, that offense is so like somebody asked me in the waiver column, they're like, should I pick up Gio in case Joe Mixon loses his job? I'm like, Joe Mixon's not losing his job. It's just the Bengals offense and offensive line are god awful. Like Gio's not going to do any better.
I guess Jamal Williams, too, although he's more in a split. He's not really a handcuff. But if something was to happen to Aaron Jones, it would probably be like 75% Jamal Williams.
Yeah, because we saw Jamal Williams was out and Aaron Jones was a little banged up. Like, they didn't even really do much with Dexter Williams. They turned to, the other one. They didn't even turn to Dexter. I can't even think of the other guy's name that they turned to in that game now.
I believe it's Trey Carson. Is that the guy?
Yeah, Trey Carson. Thank you. I'll give you one more. Deion Lewis, if Derrick Henry went down.
Maybe. Like, it feels they hate.
There's
Deion
really
Lewis.
nothing else there's nothing else on that roster.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
Oh, maybe we'll see. They haven't made a decision yet on whether it's Mariota or Tannehill, have they?
No, they were supposed to. Remember, it's Monday night, and now it's Tuesday morning. And now they still haven't made a decision. I think they haven't made a decision because they know if they turn to Tannehill, that's it. They've signed the ticket that Mariota is done.
Well, in the rankings, so when we talk about this, I won't reveal that till the quarterback rankings because why else would we talk about the Titans? But I have it as Tannehill starting right now, and that affects the wide receivers at least. It feels like Derrick Henry is just going to be Derrick Henry regardless.
Yeah, I think that it's a fair assumption. And honestly, if we're talking fantasy purposes, obviously not as Titans fans, but fantasy purposes, I think that's a boost. Like you said, we'll talk about when we talk about the wide receivers and stuff like that. But I think Tannehill's definitely better. I joked about this, and I still think it could happen if Justin Herbert could bring the whole 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon full circle because played with Oregon with the whole ties to everything that Mariota before him and everything. Herbert's actually the perfect option for them to go back to next year.
I mean, he's probably more likely to win a dunk contest than be like a successful NFL quarterback, though, isn't he?
That's certainly fair to say. I mean, I think everybody's talking about Tua at this point, and it's just funny. Like Love's already immediately fallen off after the one bad game. Granted, it's low level, but I mean, we got plenty of off season to talk about all that stuff.
True. Let's talk about the Week 7 running back rankings. So the guys that I have is likely in. You can find the rankings in the description and comment section of this video and podcast, and always up on dkplaybook.com. They get updated every day. And then before the Thursday night game and before the Sunday games, once again, just in case to react to any last-second injuries. So we don't know on a Tuesday afternoon who's exactly going to be in and going to be out. So they're likely in or likely out based on what I think. And I'm always wrong, so we can figure this out.
No! We need to Ronco our lineups.
Yeah, exactly. So I have Rashad Penny, Todd Gurley, Miles Sanders, Devin Singletary, Chris Thompson, Wayne Gallman, Rex Burkhead, and Saquon Barkley as likely in, likely out. Darren Sproles, and Justin Jackson. Now, of course, that Barkley could end up not playing. That would affect Gallman. We'll run through some of these scenarios. But number 1 in the running back rankings this week, I have Dalvin Cook against Detroit. It doesn't really seem to matter what the matchup is for him. He's going to find himself the end zone. If he can't get it going on the ground, he's going to get it going through the receiving game. He's been amazing. Leonard Fournette, number 2. Saquon, number 3. David Johnson, Ezekiel Elliott, Chris Carson, Alvin Kamara, Josh Jacobs in a pretty soft matchup against Green Bay, by the way. Not great against the run. Todd Gurley, if he's in against Atlanta, and then Le'Veon Bell. So I guess the 2 that we need to talk about from this range is Barkley. If Barkley's playing, you're starting him. That's kind of beside the point. But if Barkley is out and Gallman is in, where would you, and I think Gallman is most definitely going to play because they cut Ronnie Hillman, who was just terrible. You were absolutely dead on that.
Jonathan Hillman.
Yeah, that guy. Ronnie Hillman. They cut him. Maybe they can bring him off waivers too.
He might be better. They signed Hillman back to the practice squad.
Sweet. He can get them checks.
I don't hey, good for him. Come on. He was undrafted out of Rutgers.
Oh, fantastic. So we got to stay in New Jersey. Top-notch stuff.
But top-notch stuff. Hey, the XFL draft was today.
Was it?
Yeah, it was.
Anyone good
I'm not
go?
kidding. There's like Tommy Lee Lewis got drafted by the Cowboys, basically, or not Cowboys, the Dallas team. The Dallas team was like the one where it's the most notable cast off NFL players. Like everybody's got there's about one player per team where it's like, oh, I remember that guy. He had a shot at the NFL. The Dallas team has like 4.
I did see that Cameron Artis-Payne got drafted.
I think by the Dallas team too.
Oh, really? So, yeah, I'm actually kind of stunned. Tommy Lee Lewis is no longer on the Saints. I just assumed he was like on the practice squad.
I still thought he was on somebody's team somewhere because I remember he was in the preseason. So
there we
interesting
go.
enough.
So
sidebar there.
Yeah, because Hilliman got cut, it would lead me to believe that Gallman will return off the mini bye this week. So if Saquon sits this week and Gallman is in, where do you think Gallman would end up ranking this week against the Cardinals? And with his passing game, not necessarily prowess, but usage, that it's a pretty good matchup for him.
Yeah, and I'm looking at your rankings right now, and you know where he would go? One spot in front of your favorite person.
Yeah, so he'd be one spot behind Derrick Henry, one spot ahead of Mark Ingram.
I think that's a perfect spot for him.
Yeah, so he's like a fringe, low-end RB1, high-end RB2.
Yeah, because behind that, he's going to get the workload. They prove that. They're going to turn to him the entire time if Barkley's out. Joe Mixon, we just talked about for a little bit. It's not a good matchup. He's been miserable.
I highly disagree. I think this is a really good matchup, potentially, for Joe Mixon. It just depends on game flow. Jacksonville, per DVOA, last in the league against the run.
It is. And I'm not so okay. Let me rephrase. It's matchup wise, run wise, it's good on paper. I don't think it's a good matchup because what's the Jacksonville strength is even without Ramsey, it's the secondary. If you limit Tyler Boyd and Auden Tate at all, I mean, you can put an extra defender or 2 probably in the box to stop Joe Mixon this week. I agree with what you're saying about that's where you've been exploiting them is against the run, but I think this is a week where that kind of goes out the window because of the matchup.
The problem is when we talk about the rankings this week as it pertains to Joe Mixon, there's a lot of guys on bye. Obviously, there's guys that are banged up, and He is still he's not necessarily like a bell cow in the sense that like Fournette is, but he's on that next level down of quote unquote bell cow type running backs that, somewhere in the mid-teens, despite not being very good this season, just his workload alone should have him in that range, at least in my mind.
Yeah, and that's certainly a fair spot, but that's what I was going to say. That's why I would go better for Gallman because it's a better match. I mean, again, paper, whatever. It's against the Cardinals, and he's getting the workload, and I trust the Giants' offensive line a hell of a lot more than I trust the Bengals' offensive line. So that's just really what comes down to why I was saying I put him in front of that. And then he's getting the workload that Mark Ingram's not fully getting. Like, he's going to get a higher amount of the touches than Mark Ingram does, despite, I do like Mark Ingram. I still think that's the perfect spot for him.
Yeah, I'm with you. I would definitely have Wayne Gallman up somewhere around number 10 in these rankings. I'll have to kind of readjust it when it actually happens. But Jake, I don't like doing work I don't have to do until it actually happens. So I don't want to, just bake like 3 sets of rankings with all the hypotheticals. I'll just adjust to it when it happens. The other guy from that range is Gurley. He's still dealing with the quad issue. He may return in a really good matchup against Atlanta. So let's say that he plays. What do you think his snap share is? Or if he sits, would you rather start Brown or would you rather start Henderson? Because Henderson, after the first drive, the first drive, Malcolm Brown looked really good. And then the rest of the game, like, Darrell Henderson has like legit acceleration once he hits it. Remember we keep talking about Miles Sanders is that he's really good at getting outside, but he can't turn the corner to get north-south. It's the exact opposite for Henderson. He's a bit slow to the outside, but once he turns the corner, he's gone.
So to go back to the draft process, this because you and I talked about it. I had 2 people in my tier 1 for running backs. It was Josh Jacobs and Darrell Henderson. Now that might start to, as of today, looks like I was way too high on Darrell Henderson, but you saw the flashes. You saw there's such the appeal for Henderson. It's just because of how explosive, how dynamic he is. Similar to Dexter Williams with the Packers, what you're talking about there is the fact that when they hit or when they can turn the corner, or when they can find a hole, whatever, it's that burst where they it's that when you've watched enough football, people know this who've seen it out there. And anytime you see, it's once they take that explosion, it's almost like go. And it's like go when they hit the hole, and there's a go when they turn the corner and make that cut. And they hit that next level. It's like the gears, shifting gears and all that type of stuff. Darrell Henderson's got more than that too, obviously. And that's why he's so much better than Dexter Williams. So I'm with you. I really thought that going to the season with McVay and with McVay using Chris Thompson the way that he did back with the Redskins is that you thought that I could see a Chris Thompson role for Henderson from day one. I thought he'd be mixed in more. I think that I would still go Malcolm Brown because he's also getting the carries inside the 5 and the 10 more often, at least to date. but I think that both would be playable. I would still go Malcolm Brown slightly in front of Henderson, but I think the gap would be a lot closer than it was last week when I had my rankings.
So if we just assume Gurley is out, and these rankings do not because I have him inside the top 10, but if he is end up ruled out on, let's say, Thursday, and we have Malcolm Brown, where will we insert him into these rankings? Like, would you rather play Tevin Coleman or would you rather play Malcolm Brown?
I think I think I'd slightly go Tevin Coleman, especially because he's facing the Redskins.
Okay, would you rather go like Frank Gore against Miami, or would you rather play Malcolm Brown?
I would just shoot for the upside for Malcolm Brown. By the way, there you go, scratching my chin and it knows on camera.
Would you go, I don't know, Melvin Gordon or Malcolm Brown?
I actually think you have Melvin Gordon too low.
Melvin Gordon sucks, man. He's been bad.
He doesn't. Look, what? Whoa. Why are we saying he sucks when we're making excuses for Ezekiel Elliott and everybody else who's, started the season behind and understanding that it takes a game or two, and Melvin Gordon's essentially still in his preseason.
Sure, but
everybody's just
at least with Elliott, he's still producing fantasy points. He doesn't necessarily look like Ezekiel Elliott. He's not making people miss.
He also got the Giants in week 1.
Whatever. At least he's still producing fantasy points. With Melvin Gordon, he's just not.
That was a terrible, terrible game to take anything out of for the Chargers offense as a whole. They just got destroyed in that game. Like embarrassed, honestly, is that that was actually very similar. Both LA teams. That was very similar to the Rams, of where it's just like, what are we watching here? Because this is not the Chargers that we know. And I know you could say Chargers, maybe not the expectations and what we knew or what we thought they could potentially be, a division winner and a serious playoff contender, all that type of stuff. But at the same time, even if you didn't think that, that was a terrible game from the Chargers as a whole. I think Melvin Gordon's better. I think the offense is better. The offensive line is a concern. It's been a concern this entire year, but I still, there's no way I'm putting Melvin Gordon. If I still can't start Melvin Gordon behind Frank Gore.
I would play Frank Gore this week. 100%. Better matchup. He's getting all the snaps, and he actually runs for positive yardage, which I hear is somewhat helpful.
I really think Devin Singletary is going to start getting back more into the mix, and this is especially this week now.
I agree. I think that Devin Singletary will play in this game, and the Bills have done the right thing with him by keeping him out for so long. Whenever I have Dr. Jesse Morse on the show, he kind of talks about, hamstring injuries. If you bring them back too quickly and don't let them heal, the risk of re-aggravation is just so high. And with Devin Singletary, he's missed he's missed 3 games and had a bye week. 4 weeks is the general recovery time to get back to 100%. They haven't been pushing him. They need him, they need their running game to be effective if they have any shot of doing any damage in December and potentially into January, because it does appear like the Bills are going to make the playoffs. But this is just the matchup for all matchups. Old man AP was able to torch Miami last week. You don't think old man Frank Gore can too? And even if Singletary is back, he's still going to play 55, 65% of the snaps over Singletary.
I don't know if it's that high, but hey, look, I'm not going to nitpick that much. It's just the upside for Melvin Gordon. That just looks way too low.
I agree with you. It looks like, when I look at the page, I look at the rankings, it looks way too low, but Russell Okung and Mike Pouncey are not coming back through the door this week against Tennessee. They just can't run the ball. I have Eckler over Gordon because at least I know he's probably going to pile up 6. They are better with Austin Eckler on the field than they are with Melvin Gordon on the field. And eventually they'll realize that.
I don't know about that.
It's not necessarily that Eckler is better than Gordon. It's just the game plan that they employ when Austin Eckler is in the game. They want to throw on first down to their running backs instead of running it up the gut for -1 yard. It's just their offense is better when Eckler's in the game because their approach is different.
Well, that's what part I was saying too. The approach last week was abysmal, but the Titans defense, we've been talking about it so far, is a little bit underrated as a whole. But at the same time, while I'll lean Melvin Gordon is because, maybe it's the Tannehill thing we alluded to. Maybe there's a spark in this offense, but this offense is not scoring anything. The Chargers could roll through this game with a 17-10 win. And if that's the case, if it's low scoring and if it's ball control, that's why I'm going to lean Melvin Gordon. If it wasn't Tennessee and they were facing the Chiefs, I'd feel a lot better about Austin Eckler than I would Melvin Gordon.
All right, 11 to 20 in the rankings this week. Kerryon Johnson, Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram has been ranked by Fantasy Pros right in that spot. So, not my ranking, Fantasy Pros ranking. My ranking's in a worse place. Mixon, Phillip Lindsay, Matt Breida, Aaron Jones, Carlos Hyde, Jordan Howard, Marlon Mack. We saw Jamal Williams get the touchdown. We saw him with the world's savviest move to cash my under bet on the very last play, or the second to last play of the game. I still do think that Aaron Jones is the guy in this backfield. If he doesn't fumble and then drop a wide open touchdown pass, maybe Jamal Williams doesn't play so much.
Yeah, maybe, but this is a legitimate conversation to have. And as you know, and I say all this because I'm going to say the same thing I said in the waiver article, and I hope people listen to the entire thing because the context here is saying that.
Do you really think that people will listen to this entire thing? Please, Jay,
No.
come on. They'll just be like, oh, you don't like my guy. I hate your rankings.
I think people just love to hate me in general. That's kind of why I embrace it all in heel every day, man. I'll tell you what. No, look, in the preseason, I said Aaron Jones, why I'm not putting in the RB1 conversation, I never will, is because I don't trust teams. The Packers coaching staff before and the Packers coaching staff now are doing the same thing. What did I compare him to for you? As I said, Lamar Miller with the Dolphins, as we said, give him more touches, give him more touches, give him more touches. He gets more touches and he's putting up the same numbers less efficiently. Is sometimes NFL teams know something. We had a coaching change, a regime change, and they're still not treating Aaron Jones as a bell cow outside of the game that Jamal Williams was out and then one game this season where he had more than 20 touches. The rest of the time, it's been split. And it's what I say every single time. Aaron Jones is the better talent. He puts up more efficient numbers. He's amazing. If you tell me Jamal Williams versus Aaron Jones, I'm going to take Aaron Jones every single time. And that's why I say all this, because as the biggest detractor on Aaron Jones and the biggest supporter of Jamal Williams, I still didn't expect what happened on Monday Night Football to have happened. That was crazy. But to your point, this is why Aaron Jones has to be in this conversation. Can he have top 10 upside? Absolutely. He's finished as the number one running back. Can he finish what would just happen on Monday Night Football? Absolutely, because the Packers are not going to shy away from using Jamal Williams. It's a frustrating situation, but that's what we have to deal with.
Is Aaron Jones too high then? Do you think I should have them closer in the rankings? Because
everything.
I can't see myself inserting Jamal Williams into my lineup and being like, you know what? I feel good about this.
No, I actually, looking at your rankings, my initial reaction was he's too low. Like as much as everything I just said, split backfield wise, I'd still put him in front of Breida split backfield, and I would still put him in front of Phillip Lindsay split backfield, despite the fact that Phillip Lindsay's playing the Chiefs. I would still put Aaron Jones in front of both of them because Aaron Jones has number one upside. Neither of those guys do.
Sure, but those two matchups this week are probably the two best. And I know Phillip Lindsay's in the split. I know Breida's in the split, but
Oakland's not far behind.
Oakland is all right, but I'm more concerned that
all right.
Here's the thing. When we think about Green Bay and we think about the split that happens, it seems to go one way or another. Maybe they can both have good games, but I've seen Breida and Tevin Coleman both have good games at the same time, and I would expect that to continue against a weaker matchup. I know with the Broncos that they're just going to be fed the ball over and over and over, and at least with Phillip Lindsay, if they're ahead in this game and they're running effectively, then it's going to be a pure split with Royce Freeman. If they fall behind in this game, then it's likely to be Phillip Lindsay on the field catching those passes. That's why I have a little bit of differentiation between Phillip Lindsay and Royce Freeman here. But I just know, regardless of what happens in these scripts, those two guys, they're either going to do all their damage on 10 touches and it's not going to matter, or they get used a ton because this game is closer and all they want to do is run.
I still think Aaron Jones is going to see enough where, and this is something I tweeted during the Monday Night Football, saying, even though everything I was pointing out during the game and saying these same things on Twitter about Jamal Williams, all that type of stuff, is this could be a game where they both hit. And Aaron Jones did to a degree. You would want to see him more, but I think this is another week they could both hit because it's very unlikely that Geronimo Allison makes it back from his concussion. And even if Devontae Adams is out there, Marquez Valdes-Scantling has been shown to, if it wasn't for that one catch, he wasn't even involved that much, even with Geronimo Allison leaving the field in the second half. So I think that you're looking at Aaron Jones is just kind of so involved at this point, even in the passing game, that the argument you're making for Phillip Lindsay is the same one I would make for Aaron Jones. I'm not going to say, look, they're back to back to back. I'm just saying I would go Aaron Jones over those two. And I kind of set that all up to say, this is the person that doesn't like Aaron Jones, and I would even still start him over both of those.
At 21 to 30 to 40, wherever we go to here in this list that I'm just going to reel off. Devonta Freeman at 21. Devonta Freeman is so bad, yet keeps falling into the end zone. It really irks me.
He's James White at this point.
He's not as good as James White. That's the problem.
That's fair.
So Devonta Freeman, Tevin Coleman, Frank Gore, Eckler, James White. Royce Freeman, Melvin Gordon, Sony Michel, David Montgomery, LaShawn McCoy at number 30. Then we have Jamal Williams, Devin Singletary, Chase Edmonds, Tariq Cohen, Miles Sanders, Damian Williams, Ito Smith, Rashad Penny, who I have in right now, Gio Bernard, and Latavius Murray. Latavius had a touchdown called back on him last week, and maybe he gets more reps with Kamara dealing with a knee and ankle injury, who's going to play, but it's just a bad matchup against the Bears.
Forget about that. I couldn't care. The only way I want Latavius Murray this week is if Alvin Kamara is officially out.
If David Montgomery has a huge game, would you try for the world to trade him?
I would be doing the same thing I was doing with Devontae Freeman. Like everybody's like, oh, he looks so good rushing finally this year. Did you pay attention to who he faced? So Devontae Freeman, as you joked about, just he doesn't look very good. And even watching that game, like it was his best game, like rushing the ball, he still didn't look that good. So Devontae Freeman is immediate sell high. Just because he's basically James White and a lesser effective James White for the passing game wise. Same thing as you're saying with David Montgomery. And it's not that I don't like David Montgomery. Like I'm a David Montgomery supporter. I think he had him as a top 6 or 7 running back in this draft class. But it comes down to Nagy, and it comes down to similar to what we were just talking about with Aaron Jones. It comes back down to Doug Peterson and his backfield. Is sometimes like you know, we want a talent, we want things to happen. We're sitting at home and watching and saying, we believe this player is better than the other player. Sometimes Jamal Williams being more well-rounded means more than Aaron Jones having the better athleticism. Same thing here. You know, there's more athleticism with David Montgomery. Maybe he's not quite to where they want him to be as an NFL player. And Jordan Howard, despite being kind of well, he's kind of good enough in everything that he does that he's been going well so far. So David Montgomery, for his situation with the usage of Tariq Cohen, and then Mike Davis is always lingering, although he's completely kind of fell on the side over the last couple of games. It's still a concern enough that, yes, I would try to sell him high.
Wide receivers this week, the injury report. I have Emmanuel Sanders, Sammy Watkins, Christian Kirk, Hollywood Brown, Philip Dorsett, Sterling Shepard, Julian Edelman, Taylor Gabriel, Randall Cobb, Kenny Stills, and Tyrell, the Gazelle Williams as likely in, likely out. Devontae Adams, Amari Cooper, Paris Gambu, Traquan Smith, Marquise Lee, AJ Green, Deshaun Jackson, Josh Gordon, and Geronimo Allison. Number 1 in the rankings, but T.Y. Hilton. I suppose the top 10 doesn't really matter. You're starting all these guys anyway, but T.Y. Hilton torches the Texans every single time he plays them. So let's go with that. Cooper Kupp, who just let me down as my number 1 guy this week. I'm going back to him, number 2. Julio, Lockett, Gallup against Philly with no Amari Cooper. Julian Edelman, Kenny Golladay, DeAndre Hopkins, Michael Thomas, Brendan Cooks, Tyreek Hill, who tends to struggle a bit with Denver over the years, but Keenan Allen, Alshon Jeffrey, Will Fuller, Adam Thielen, DJ Chark, Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, John Brown, and Hollywood Brown. Fun fact about DJ Chark, both William Jackson and Drake Kirkpatrick are both out for the Bengals, and that means BW Webb is going to probably be like shadowing him or acting as the cornerback 1, and he has like a broken forearm. Like it's not good news for the Bengals defense right now, especially in the secondary.
Do you know who the other 2 corners are?
It's probably like Pac-Man Jones.
No, it's Tony McRae and Torrey McGuire or something like that. Not MacGyver.
The corpse of Torrey Holt. He's out there.
Torrey Holt. Torrey Smith is out there playing defense for them.
So,
how many other Torreys can we name from football?
I mean, Torrey Wilson was in wrestling, but
yeah, she was hot.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think she was like Miss America or something like that. And my girl Tori, she was in like some sort of modeling, like that sort of pageantry type work. My girl Tori from The Challenge, she's having a good year.
Oh, I wouldn't even know anything about The Challenge.
That's too bad. You should be watching The Challenge.
What season are they on now? 75?
This is 34 for The Challenge.
Well, it wasn't off by much.
No, and they're doing like 2 a year now. But I actually kind of shook up the wide receiver rankings this week, but everyone inside the top 20 were going to play anyway. It doesn't really matter what order that they were going to be in. If Watkins plays, I feel like this is the ideal situation for him. He's back. Hill is back. Hill's going to see the primary coverage here. This is more of a role I think Watkins is suited for. We put a lot onto him while Hill was out because we saw so many targets in week 1, and the targets were there every single week for him. He just wasn't able to convert because he was dealing with the primary coverage. I think he just works better as the secondary or tertiary option in this offense, at least in the passing game.
Absolutely. And the thing is the game earlier this year that Marquez Valdes-Scantling really went off, and other opportunities where other receivers have gone off against the Denver defense, it's been with the matchup with Yadam. I think that's how you say his last name, but that's the one where Marquez Valdes-Scantling went off against this team. So to your point, if he's out there, this is the Watkins game. This is kind of one of the ones that we were always like waiting for. We're like, oh, this is the intrigue and the excitement we get for Watkins. So I think it's a fair call. My question is he 100% though? Because I don't know if I want Sammy Watkins even 90%. Like I need to know he's 100%, or at least 98.
Would they be bringing him back on a like short week on Thursday if he wasn't 100%? That just seems crazy. For a guy who has so much injury history that maybe he's 90%. And if it's 90%, I'm still good with it. Like if he's playing, I feel like you need to play him.
And that's I would think is this as much, but it's not like we've seen NFL teams do crazier things this year. So my point was I hope that we get some kind of report saying that he's not lingering, like he's not fighting through it.
Am I nuts for having Gallup at 5 if Cooper isn't playing?
I don't know if I would have him that high, but he's certainly he's in the top 12. He's a wide receiver 1.
I don't want to say how doesn't this work, because obviously it cannot work, but the Eagles can't stop anybody.
They can't, but at the same time, my concern. So here's my only concern for this game with Michael Gallup being the number 1. It's not that even Michael Gallup can't handle being a number 1. I just don't know two things. One, is he there yet as being the number 1 to take that focus? Because we've seen wide receivers thrust into this situation before. And yes, it is the Eagles secondary. However, if there is no Amari Cooper, you would think that as bad as the Eagles secondary is, roll coverage over top of Michael Gallup and let Randall Cobb, who's banged up, and Devin Smith, who's just a burner, like try and let them beat you. And at that point, who cares? Like you're going to focus on Michael Gallup. And that's where I bring that into the conversation, is saying, can he handle that kind of attention? Similar to Juju Smith-Schuster, even before Ben Roethlisberger got hurt, Juju Smith-Schuster being asked to be the number 1 for the Steelers. And you tell me right now, the two of them side by side, I'm going to take Juju's talent and development over Gallup's talent and development, although I like them both for the future. And that's why I just bring that up as a conversation piece.
If you just run play action against the Eagles, they will bite every single time, and you'll just be wide open down the field, apparently.
No, that is true. But also, if you're looking at the fact that like last week, we were talking up Kirk Cousins to Stephon Diggs, and it's like you get open quick also because the Eagles get pressure after it's weird. The Eagles are the weirdest defense dynamically, is because they're so terrible in the pass against the pass, but they still get pressure on the quarterback every single week. So, maybe this is a surprise game where we see somebody like, again, Randall Cobb's not 100%, so I don't even know who's behind. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I can't think of who
it's Tavon Austin.
Oh my God. If this is a Tavon Austin game, just good God.
So 21-30 in the rankings. I have, let's see here. Who do I have? Watkins, Fitzgerald, Robert Woods, Tyrell, the Gazelle Williams. He's still dealing with an injury, though. He may or may not play. They did just trade for Zay Jones. Mike Williams, Cortland Sutton, Stephen Diggs, Terry McLaurin, Golden Tate, and Tyler Boyd. Whoever's on the, Patrick Peterson's back this week for Arizona, so I assume who's ever on the or Shepard, or Shepard if he plays.
No, they said yesterday that Shepard is already doubtful for this week.
All right, so I should take Shepard out of the ranking. Either way, it's good news for Golden Tate.
It is good news for Golden Tate, and whether it's Shepard or Slayton, neither of them are on my radar. I'm sorry, Darius Slayton, sacrificial lamb as a rookie to get thrown to Patrick Peterson's first game back. That's unfortunate timing there.
Terry McLaurin is the toughest one to rank this week because I can't see benching him, but I also can't see playing him against San Francisco with the way things are going.
No, he's what you just said. It's similar to DJ Chark last week. DJ Chark had an off week. I'm expecting a rebound for him, but the same thing with Terry McLaurin is they've both put themselves. They are must starts. They are at least wide receiver 3s. Can obviously a matchup against the Bears or the 49ers which is happening this week. Going to go belly up but it's not quite the Mike Evans level of where, you just take that on the chin. But at this point, he is their number 1. He's been dominating most every single week. And Case Keenum is not going to stop. The one good thing for fantasy purposes, while Dwayne Haskins is the future for this team, you brought it up before. I talked about it on the Washington Huddle, the TV show I do down here, is Case Keenum's he's going to keep throwing it. He doesn't care. What does he have to lose? His job. He's not going to have the job after this year anyway. If Dwayne Haskins came in at quarterback, they'd probably reel in the offense a little bit. So as long as Case Keenum's a quarterback, he's going to throw, similar to Andy Dalton. So I can't see benching him even against the 49ers.
Yeah, the upside is just too high. You wouldn't want to lead on him. You might have 3 better options to play, but all things being equal,
maybe
Scorin McLaurin's the guy that you need to have out there. I mean,
did you switch it?
I like Scorin McLaurin. I think that's the one.
I like Score McLaurin better than Cherry Terry, although I still like Scary Terry. I don't care the fact that he doesn't like it. I don't care about stupid Terry Rozier.
Yeah, I like scoring McLaurin.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it rhymes. Anything that rhymes.
As long as you don't call him F1.
Yeah, that is just bad. We don't need to rehash this again. It's a terrible nickname. D.D. Westbrook at number 31. I've already talked about the Bengals secondary. Emmanuel Sanders, Mohamed Sanu, Allen Robinson, Taylor Gabriel, Philip Dorsett, who returned to practice today, Jamison Crowder, say it right, Frenchie, DJ Metcalf, A.J. Brown, Dante Pettis is the top 40. That's 30 to 40.
Speaking of which,
here's a problem that I have. Because we didn't kind of do this last week with Lattimore shutting down DJ Chark and the Saints defense really rattling the backfield to Gardner Minshew. It's not like the Bears offensive line has been good at all. So if you don't have time and you have a shutdown corner on your number one option, that's bad news, which would lead me towards Taylor Gabriel, who's coming off the concussion. But if I had both of them on my team and I looked at it, I'd be like, there's no way that I'm playing Taylor Gabriel over Allen Robinson. I just can't do it.
I don't really want anybody in this game. This is one where I'd even like, this is Terry McLaurin over even Allen Robinson, as you have. It's just the situation is he's getting Lattimore. I can't trust Taylor Gabriel to go back to that again. Guy had 3 touchdowns in 2 years. Like, it's just Taylor Gabriel.
Then he had 3 touchdowns in 10 minutes.
I know. That's the point. He equaled what he did in 2 years before that. It's still Taylor Gabriel. Is still Anthony Miller still out there in the mix a bit. Anthony Miller's been playing some decent slot at times. I'm not saying Anthony Miller's the better player than Taylor Gabriel. I'm just saying that if they're all out there, it just who's going to do what? It's PJ Williams in the slot, which is what you want. And Taylor Gabriel was out there for 100% of the slot snaps. That's all him. I could see a little bit of intrigue. And to be honest with you, if that was known beforehand, I might think about it over Allen Robinson. But this is another one where that's kind of like where you catch yourself being too cute. You're overthinking it. And what if Allen Robinson gets away from Lattimore? He's not going to see Lattimore 100%. Once he gets away from him for 2 catches and one of them's for a touchdown, you're going to hate yourself.
Do we know if it's going to be Trubisky back or if it's going to be Chase Daniel? I assume it's Chase Daniel. Like, there's no way Trubisky can be back with a shoulder issue yet, can he?
I don't think so. I mean, they were talking about him starting to like get some practice reps on the side, but it doesn't sound like it's very likely to have happened. What would you like him more if he had Trubisky or like him less?
I don't know, but I do know that after watching that Raiders game, like when in doubt, Chase Daniel just throws it in the direction of Allen Robinson. So it could just be one of these situations where he gets a ton of volume. He won't be efficient, but that's going to be good enough because he's the only one getting volume on the team, and his natural skill will just overcome at some point.
Get him a dozen targets in hopes he catches a third of those or fourth of them even.
Yeah, it's sort of like the old school DeAndre Hopkins versus Jalen Ramsey games where he had like 15 targets and end up with like 6 catches for 78 yards and a touchdown or something like that. It's like, well,
that might never happen again.
Yeah, maybe not.
At this rate.
Who knows? Yeah, DeAndre Hopkins can only him and Kiki Cutie like swap bodies or something like that.
No, we still haven't even gotten to that yet.
What?
Did you bring him up in your ranks? Did you go past him?
Who, Kiki?
No. Worst place. I told you to put him there last week and you said no.
No, I have Will Fuller at like number 13 or something like that.
No, he needs to be in worst place. I told you that.
Listen,
I told
you, then you can do whatever you want with your rankings. My rankings are my rankings. I like Will Fuller.
Yeah. And everybody liked Will Fuller last week. And I even made the excuse for him too. I was like, all right, he won't disappoint for one more week because he's facing the Chiefs. No, he just goes out there and drops 3 touchdowns. Screw you, Will Fuller. Worst place. My worst place.
I don't know. I like Will Fuller.
No, I told you he's the Jared Cook of wide receivers. Worst place.
I don't know. What was his final stat line last week? Anyway, I know how big the game could have been, but I think
like
that
5-6 points.
Let's see, 5 catches, 44 yards. I mean, if that's going to be his floor on 9 targets,
7 points, 7.5 points.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So over his past 5 games, hasn't seen fewer than 6 targets. They're just teams are actively looking to take DeAndre Hopkins out of these games, that Will Fuller's just going to be on single coverage the entire time. He's sort of like Robbie Anderson in a way. Like if Robbie Anderson wasn't playing the Patriots this week, he'd be a top 20 guy.
And that's certainly fair. And the thing about Robbie Anderson, though, and I don't know if I would put him as a top 20 guy, is he's always going to be a wide receiver 3 for me. Will Fuller, Deshaun Jackson in his prime, Robbie Anderson, all these guys. And that's my biggest complaint. It's like, tongue in cheek, joking aside about worst place. You're still starting Will Fuller. I'm still starting Will Fuller. But he deserves. My biggest problem is similar to Aaron Jones conversation is don't put Aaron Jones in the RB1 conversation. Guess what? Don't put Will Fuller in the top 20 conversation. He's a wide receiver 3. There will be top 10 weeks. There will be, you didn't even want to start him weeks. And last week was kind of that wide receiver 4 where sometimes he gets in the middle. And that's my biggest problem with it, is everybody just always wants to anoint Will Fuller as a top 15, top 20 wide receiver, and he's not.
No, and I think people get caught up with it as well, that he's always such a good DraftKings play because of the upside that
That
he
is
brings
true.
to the table, that it gets factored. Like, you start thinking about that upside as it pertains to season-long fantasy, and the consistency isn't always there. That's something I fall into the trap of all the time, because I talk about all this shit all the time. But
like, I'm looking at him right now, given the matchup, and I know that he's healthy. I would slide Will Fuller, and I know you're not going to. I'm just saying for conversation piece here, I would put Will Fuller behind John Brown. I would sandwich him in between the Browns.
I can do that. I'll do that just for you. I won't move him to worst place. I'll move him to number 19 in the rankings. How about that? Just
All
for
right,
you,
fair
Jake.
enough.
Anyone else you want to talk about from down here? If Allison is out and Devontae Adams is out again, how are you feeling about Allen, the Lizard Queen?
The Lizard Queen? Yeah. Look, I called him this. I put this in the waiver column. I called him Auden Tate with a killer smile in the draft class last year, because they're very similar players. And as you've seen, Auden Tate's doing fine with the Bengals if he's out there. But I don't really want him unless Adams and Allison are both sidelined. If Adams is out there, I really don't even want Marquez Valdez-Scantling, because he's just going to absorb a dozen plus targets. If Adams is out and Allison is suffering the concussion, and the number 1 and number 2 are Valdez-Scantling and Lazard, I think, or Lazard. I don't even know how you correctly pronounce his last name, but we'll say Lazard. Either way, I think he's in wide receiver 4 conversation at that point.
Yeah. Anyone else we should be talking about down here, like Jacoby Myers if Josh Gordon sits? They did bring back Ben Watson as well, so they're down.
Josh Gordon missed practice today too.
I saw that. And would you pick up N'Keal Harry? Because I don't think it's even worth it at this point.
Only because I should have answered first. I was going to say no, only because Philip Dorsett is back at practice.
Yes.
So N'Keal Harry, if there was no Dorsett and there was no Gordon, and now you're talking about Edelman, Myers, and now he's the number 3, then I could get interested in a deep league. But he's also not back until he still has to sit out through. Yeah, exactly. He still has to finish the PUP, or the IR with the eligible to return. So I think that, a deep league, but only if both of them were out, which it doesn't look like Josh Gordon. I mean, if he only misses this week, then it's not even a conversation.
So Jacoby Myers, someone you would consider playing?
I like Jacoby Myers. I do.
Would you play like Demarcus Robinson Thursday night, or would you play Jacoby Myers on Monday night? I think I'd still play Demarcus Robinson.
No, I would play Jacoby Myers. Demarcus Robinson just put up a 0.
He did, but sometimes guys put up 0 when they're not good.
No, knowing that Josh Gordon's already missed practice, I would just start Myers. There's just DeMarcus. Now that Tyreek Hill's back, at best case scenario, you're always going to be the number 3 between Demarcus Robinson and Mecole Hardman and Byron. What did you call him? The heir to the fortune of the chip factory or something like that?
Yeah, he's the chip heir to the chip fortune. Byron Pringle.
It's good
with Watkins back. We're just not seeing him at all. We barely saw him last week.
Right. So at best case scenario, if Watkins is back, I was saying, at best case scenario, if Watkins was out, you're the number 3 behind Kelsey and Hill. Best case with Watkins is now you're the number 4. So no, I don't want like I said, Demarcus Robinson just put up a 0.
Anything with like the other Seattle guys, Jaron Brown, David Moore, the other Colts guys going up against the Texans, any interest in them?
Nah. That's always going to be, you're just trying to chase. You're always going to chase. I call this, it's the cliche, chasing your tail. Like, you're trying to chase, you chase David Moore. When he gets the touchdowns, you chase Jaron Brown when he gets the touchdowns, and then it never comes around. And it's usually the other guy before it comes back around to that guy at some point. Same thing with the Chiefs. If they're all healthy, Demarcus Robinson could easily catch a touchdown this week, but then people would chase him. And then next week it'll be Mecole Hardman as the 3rd person involved, or next week it'll be Byron Pringle. Like, those are situations where, if you're desperate, I would say of all of those, probably on the Colts, I would just go for Rodgers, because he's getting some of those red zone looks and he's getting more snaps. But I don't really want to use him. I guess 15-team league, 14-team leagues, you might have to.
Quarterbacks for week 7. I have Mahomes is in, Trubisky is out, Mariota is out, Tannehill is in for the purposes of these rankings. It'll switch if there's an announcement made. Drew Brees out with a thumb injury as well. Number 1, I have Russell Wilson at home against Baltimore, Lamar Jackson in that same game at number 2. Deshaun, Kyler, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, Aaron Rodgers, Daniel Jones in the top 10, then Gardner Minshew, Matt Ryan, Jimmy G, Jacoby Brissett, Tom Brady, Carson Wentz, Joe Flacco. I think that if you got down to this territory, there's someone you probably could have picked up somewhere in between.
You probably could have and probably should have at this point. Although Garoppolo is out there.
Hold on. There is something I do want to say about this. how can I phrase this? I'm upset everyone's on my Josh Allen corner now.
So it's high school. You were the first one to buy the t-shirt and the album, and now everybody likes him, and you want to move on.
I'm not going to do that, though, because I do actually just have Josh Allen as my quarterback. I think I already played five year-long fantasy football teams this year. I believe he's my quarterback on 4 of them. So it's good news for me. Like, it's turning out to be pretty good here. But now that the world is on him, I think that might be too much pressure for Sir Josh.
Too much pressure. He knows that the world is on him. Is that what you're telling me?
That is what I am getting at here. It's just in a chalk situation as huge favorites. Like, I think he's going to have a great week. That's why I ranked him at number 6.
That's what you were saying about Baker Mayfield.
What?
That Baker Mayfield shows up when everybody's down on him, but when everybody likes the Browns and Baker Mayfield, he's going to fall on his face.
Yeah.
You're making the same argument.
And it basically happened last week until he hurt his hip. He actually had a pretty decent fantasy game, to be perfectly honest. Not great, but
yeah, it did.
Not good. But Josh Allen he's just so safe for fantasy purposes. Like, and we're going to get one of those 2 rushing touchdown games. This could be it.
It definitely could. I mean, it's the matchup for it. I mean, I don't understand why would you want to come off him now?
I'm not coming off. I have him at number 5 or number 6 in the rankings.
No, but I would say, like, why don't you want to enjoy it right now? What's wrong with enjoying the fun?
I just worry that now that everyone is on him, that everyone's going to pick up Josh Allen. Everyone's going to play Josh Allen.
What kind of narrative are you creating over here?
I don't know. I'm just a bit worried now that the world is on Josh Allen that maybe he'll underperform.
I can't get in here anymore. Now that the crowd, it's full. And I used to be able to just walk up to the front of the stage.
Exactly. This is exactly what I'm talking about. But you're in this week as well?
Oh, absolutely. No question about it.
Daniel Jones, you're in? Because I'm in on that this week.
No.
Why not?
Because he's Daniel Jones.
I don't care. I just play quarterbacks against Arizona.
And you know what? This is the same thing we said when the Redskins were facing the Giants, and that went to crap for the Redskins. Like, sometimes you can overthink the matchups. And everybody last week for Daniel Jones, what he did against the Patriots is like, oh, he was aggressive in that game. That's terrific. This is what we wanted. He played the same damn way that Eli Manning has played every single time, made poor decisions. He's been terrible since the Buccaneers game. I told people not to overrate him after the Buccaneers game. I am taking a victory lap on this one because Daniel Jones is Eli Manning. He's just young and new.
This might be true. I do want to see him start to utilize his mobility a little bit more. And I think you can just do that. Like, Arizona's defense is bad. I know Patrick Peterson's back, but okay, you take out 1/3 of the field. There's 2 other thirds of the field that should be pretty good here. And with Arizona pushing the pace and pushing the pace and pushing the pace, that they're just going to run so many plays that I think that Daniel Jones can get there.
And you know what? That's fair. But, maybe rushing is going to help his day, and that really could. But again, Slayton's going to get tied up. He looked like as of today, again, Shepard's not playing. Slayton's going to get tied up with Patrick Peterson. Evan Ingram should be back. I feel better if Saquon Barkley is out there. I'm just not going to put him inside the top 10 because of the turnovers. I just think it's the same argument we put for a lot of them. Now, if your league only gives you like minus half a point or -1, or there are some leagues that don't even penalize you for interceptions, then he's, top 10. But I think most leagues out there are usually -2 for interceptions.
No, I would say most leagues are -1 for interceptions.
I thought -2 is the default.
No, I think if you have 6 points per touchdown pass, it's -2. If you do 4, it's -1.
I have to go look.
And you always have that potential for the rushing upside, plus the elevated pace of the game. So I do I'm kind of with you. I don't love Daniel Jones as a quarterback. As a fantasy asset this week against Arizona, I do like him. I'm looking at my projections right now, and my rankings don't match my projections just because, I have no faith in my projections, but it does go Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott, Matt Ryan, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Daniel Jones, Jared Goff, Kyler Murray. Those are like the top 8 guys.
That's a fair range.
But do you know why I don't trust those projections? Because Lamar isn't near the top, and he's always near the top.
Yeah, why do you rank Lamar Jackson inside the top 5 every single week? Well, that's why.
Yeah, because he might rush for 200 yards in this game.
It's conceivable. He's going to rush for 1,000 yards.
Oh, for sure. He might break Vic's record. If he can get to 1,100 yards, he breaks it. He's halfway there already.
And I actually, on the D'Angelo Williams podcast that we recorded today, which comes out tomorrow, he was saying that he does think he makes it through 16 games because it's today's NFL. And we're back in the day where Vic and Robert Griffin, they ran 15 times. They got hit 7 or 8 times. He runs 18. He gets hit 2 or 3 because it's today's NFL, because there's such a small window. And he's also smart about running out of bounds and stuff like that. I asked him, I was like, do you think Vic could run for 1,500 yards today? And he said, absolutely. No question about it.
I don't think so. And here's why.
I do.
So when I think about Vic and I think about Griffin as runners, that I think of them both in the same ways. They just annihilated everyone with their speed. It was almost like the Darrell Henderson talk that we had, that once he turned the corner and they went go, they were gone and no one can catch them. Lamar's like that. I don't think he's quite as fast as those guys. Maybe he is. I don't know. But he doesn't look quite as fast. He's just shiftier. Like, he straight up olays people and makes them miss. Like, his like little fake running out of bounds move and then cuts back the other way. Like, he's good at avoiding contact in that way, where those other two guys were not.
No, see, no, that's you're misremembering Michael Vick. He was the he was the king of tiptoeing that sideline, and then as soon as he was about to get hit, he stepped out to get the penalty. Like, I'm
talking about it the other way. Like, Jackson like tiptoes up towards the sidelines to run out of bounds. The defender slows down. He cuts back to the middle of the field and just keeps going.
Oh, that's certainly fair. But I'm saying that's where I think Vic would change his style a little bit. I think Vic would run a little bit more because he knows that they're going to call a penalty if you even hit him at this point.
True. And a lot of these plays, like these RPOs or even designed runs from Lamar Jackson, he has blockers out there for him. Like, they're designed run plays that he's just not going to take those 100 mile per hour, just full on contact hits in the open field, right, like those other two guys did too.
Right. Vic, a lot of Vic's running was freelancing on his own.
Yeah.
That wasn't designed. That's why I agree. I think that 1,500 would be reasonable, although we're talking in ifs and make believe now.
If you had to pick one up, would it be Minshew or Garoppolo? Because I prefer Minshew this week.
Minshew, but I think they're both good plays if you need a quarterback.
I talked about this with Sal on the Monday show. I'm not convinced Jimmy G's any good.
I don't disagree. Like, that's kind of been a lot of what I was saying in the offseason is we don't know. We haven't seen a lot of them. And the biggest thing going into the season, and was like why I wasn't in on the wide receivers and only George Kittle. And even I was saying be cautious of George Kittle, and he looks fine as of now. Is we don't know what Jimmy Garoppolo fits the offense, how he progresses with the receivers, who he likes the best.
I will say that I think that he fits with this offense really well. That Kyle Shanahan has
we found that out.
He's done a really good job of highlighting the things that Jimmy does well, get him on the move a little bit, utilize that mobility, a lot of high percentage passes. I'm just really curious to see whatever happens if they get down by 14 points, what he starts looking like, because he makes 2 or 3 just horrendous throws every single game.
Right. But also you're right about what he's been, but we didn't know that going to the season.
No.
And to your point, and we still don't know what you're saying right now. We don't know what he looks like when they're down by that much. And we still don't know what wide receiver he likes, because every single week it's a new one. I brought that up in the waiver column as well, is that you look at it, it's been 5 different wide receivers. You know, Deebo Samuel had 2, but it's been Marquise Goodwin, Deebo Samuel, Richie James, and who's the other one? Dante Pettis. And the only person you can rely on is Kittle in the backfield.
Yeah, I mean, just starting any wide receiver for the Niners right now is just you talk about like chasing. Like, you chase DeMarcus Robinson, you chase Hardman, you chase Pringle, whoever it might be. At least they play for the Chiefs.
Right. Exactly. 100%.
Yeah, like, just get if you want to chase wide receivers, at least do it in offense. Are you worried about Mahomes and his potential upside here? Like, I have him ranked not number 1 for the first time all season. I have it number 5, but like, I am kind of concerned about the ankle, but I'm also concerned. Like, I initially had Josh Allen ranked ahead of him when I did my rankings. I looked, I was like, there's no way I would ever start Josh Allen over Patrick Mahomes. I just wouldn't do it.
No, and that's why I wouldn't rank him there, to your point. And you look at last year against Denver, he had that 4 touchdown game against them. And then the other one, I think he only had 1, but he threw 300 some odd yards in that one. But it's Patrick Mahomes. I don't have a problem with him being not number 1, as you phrased it. But at the same time, my only concern for him is not ability. It's not matchup. It's not anything. It's the ankle. It's his health.
Yeah, me too. But it does seem like he could be dealing with a high ankle sprain.
Right. And he's playing through it.
Yeah. So tight ends. Let's talk about some tight ends here. Who do I got at number 1? Well, I got Evan Ingram, Ben Watson, who's no longer cut, and Chris Herndon as likely in, Matt Lacoste, the Lacostitute, Vernon Davis, Jeff Swaim, and Josh Oliver is likely out. So I have no idea who is playing tight end for Jacksonville at this point. Maybe no one. And Will Disley probably done for the year with an Achilles tear. George Kittle, number 1. Evan Ingram, number 2. Travis Kelce, number 3. Mark Andrews, Hooperton, Hunter Henry, Zach Ertz, Darren Waller, Gerald Everett against Atlanta, and Darren Fells at number 10. You got a problem with any of these?
Not really. I do like that you have Ben Watson as no longer cut.
Well, he's not. He got signed again.
I know that, but that's the best. That is no longer cut. Yeah, that was so surprising. All the people were like, I stashed Ben Watson. And then it's like, they cut him. By the way, I think to your answer to your question, I think it's Seth the Valve for Jacksonville.
Is it really?
I think so. Because it's not like you said, if Swaim's out, I mean, that's all they have. No, I think Seth the Valve is the third man up.
That's kind of crazy. To tell you the truth. It is, yeah. Seth DeValve and Ben Koyak. He still plays for the team.
Koyak is still around.
Isn't Josh Oliver supposed to be good though when he eventually comes back? Like I don't really know anything about him. I know he's a super rook, but he's just been hurt.
He was essentially the number 1 wide receiver in college for his team. So like that's what he is though. It's similar to Noah Fant and all these other ones that are receiving first and not that much of a pass block. But at the same time, he's still a rookie tight end. I mean, we're seeing with TJ Hawkinson, despite being an amazing all-around tight end.
I think Hawkinson has dropped 7 touchdowns this year. That's how it feels like watching these games.
He's had some of the issues himself, but there's another one. Again, this is not like trying to pimp myself out or anything like this, but I was tweeting about it earlier because I was watching NFL Network while I was working out, and Charlie Casserly was talking about Joe Flacco and the way to stop him and get him under pressure. And he was breaking down this play with Noah Fant breaking to the outside. And I brought this up for the rookie tight end purposes. Is like that play that he's go to my Twitter feed, you'll see it because I just videoed it and put it out.
You put it out. Yeah, smart move.
Yeah. So when you watch it, is Noah Fant's breaking outside, it's out to the left, and he makes a gigantic, over-exaggerated plant step, which already slowed him down a little bit. And as a rookie, and this was the point I'm bringing up, the quarterback doesn't have 100% confidence in that you're going to be where you need to be. And that exaggerated step also made Joe Flacco think for a second, he might not be where I need to throw the ball. And then the DB was coming down, dropping down into coverage over top of Fant. We could easily undercut him. I bring all that up because Fant is better than Josh Oliver. He easily was the best receiving tight end in this draft class. But this is why we see this in the NFL. This is why we see rookie tight ends take a while, because there's things like that rookie wide receivers do the exact same thing. Is there's learning where to be, is learning to turn your head just that half second earlier so the quarterback knows you're going to be where he needs to throw the ball. And that's why sometimes that target never even happened, where an experienced tight end, that ball is out there and it actually turns into a reception.
Hawkinson is 8th in the NFL in targets inside the 10-yard line so far this season, and he is 8th in targets inside the 20-yard line so far this season.
How many drops?
I believe all of them except for the one touchdown that he caught.
Stop switching to me while I'm scratching myself.
No, every time, that's part of the rules. I told Paul, anytime you're scratching yourself, no matter where it is on your body, quick cut to you. So I think Hawkinson is just sort of like a tight end or bust type play at this point.
Oh, definitely. But he's fringe tight end 1 conversation because of how bad the position is now that we've also lost Disley on top of it.
Yeah. Do you think Luke Wilson gets some run here as the tight end 1 with Seattle now?
I mean, he'll probably, but that one feels more like a chasing one, that you're kind of chase the games where he's there and where he's not. I'd rather just take the chance on Dawson Knox, who a lot of people drop because the Bills were on bye.
Yeah, Dawson Knox is all right. Good athlete, Dawson Knox. He got a lot of power.
Good actor.
There's an actor named Dawson Knox?
No, Dawson's Creek. Never mind. This is why I don't do nicknames.
Jake. Come on, man. Defenses for week 7. You know the Niners are available in like 45% of leagues?
Are they really?
Yeah.
How?
I don't know. They won't be after waivers clear because they're the number 1 defense of the week against the Skins. I think the Niners, New England, and Buffalo, the clear 1, 2, 3 this week. Then I went with Jacksonville, New Orleans, the Chiefs, the Giants, the Packers, the Bears, and the Lions. Kyler outdoors, he might put up 40 points, but he might get sacked 8 times as well. That they just run so many plays, they run so many pass plays. And the Giants aren't horrible at getting pressure. They're not great at getting pressure, but they're also not horrible at it.
They're getting slightly better, but they're still in the middle of a 3-4 transition, and that's still not that good. I mean, that transition started, I think, last year, and they're still not there because the pieces just aren't there.
No, but even like against someone like the Packers, who could have a good game against Derek Carr, but you know that Oakland is going to mainly try to run the ball. You know that they're going to throw very high percentage, like not low ADOT passes, and those aren't really conducive with defensive fantasy points. You need to get yourself into a really good game script. With Arizona, like they're going to continue to pass because apparently they can't run the ball whatsoever.
No. And you know what, for all the people that might be thinking like, I don't really know if I want to make this switch. Like maybe you have the Packers defense after last week and you're thinking about like to your point of the Giants, well, go look at the Packers' next 2 games too. It's at Chiefs and at Chargers, so you don't even really want to hold them anyway.
I mean, you could probably use them against the Chargers.
Maybe. I don't know if I don't trust it.
It still seems like you're sipping on the Chargers Kool-Aid a little bit.
I'm not ready to like burn them to the ground at this point of the season already.
They need to get everyone back. Like until they start actually getting people like Hunter Henry, that's step 1. That's nice and everything. There's like 7 more guys that need to come back for them before they're like good again.
Hunter Henry concerns me a little bit for Keenan Allen going forward because Keenan Allen was kind of in that. It's kind of like the Devontae Adams thing. If everybody was healthy and Devontae Adams isn't getting his 10 plus targets per game, Keenan Allen, if he's not getting 10 plus targets, just look at the last 3 games. And that was before Hunter Henry came back. Hunter Henry's out there, Mike Williams is healthy, and Melvin Gordon is now back into the fold. Keenan Allen's still wide receiver 1. I just would be concerned about him being that top 5 wide receiver that we were seeing through the first 3 weeks.
Yeah, I can see that as well. Like once you started like taking away all of the options, it all started with that Miami game. They won by too much, and then Keenan Allen got kind of phased out of it. But they were at least more successful when he was a bigger part of their offensive game plan. Maybe the other teams are just like, hey, if we just take away Keenan Allen, they legit can't do anything.
No, I didn't even notice till now that you put Weber Cook for Jared because he's always in worst place.
He's Weber Cooks, the world's saddest man.
Fair enough.
Yeah. All right. Jake Ciely, anything else? Any sleeper defense we should think about, or that's it?
That's pretty much it. I mean, it's actually matchup wise, there's not even a ton. Where's you have? See, you have all the. I told you this last 2 weeks. You're good at doing defenses. You're really good at doing defenses, and I mean, there's nobody here that's you don't have mentioned already.
Yeah, even like the scummier ones like Kansas City. I think Kansas City's completely viable against Denver here. All they need to do is get up to a 10-0 lead on Thursday night. And then the floodgates just open, even though they suck on defense.
For Joe Flacco, yeah.
Yeah. All right, that'll do it on the Pat Mayo Experience, Jake. At Allen Kidd on Twitter, The Athletic. What you got coming out this week? I know you teased a little bit with D'Angelo Williams on the podcast. What else can we expect tomorrow?
Oh, yeah. He talked about his London trip because he was out there as a representative for the Panthers and talked about vision.
Like he went to England. He didn't just hang out with London Fletcher.
No. He actually went to England. He was the representative. He was on both sidelines. He talks about how athletes even get that whole superstar treatment of like when somebody's like, oh, it's been a long time, we should hang out. And you have to listen to it for that. Talked about going to Stonehenge and driving on the wrong side of the road and all that type of stuff. It was a good conversation. And then, as I mentioned, we talked about Lamar Jackson. Of course, rankings out 12:01 tonight, as everybody should know by now. And here's the simplest thing: the Throwback Podcast, All in Sports Podcast, all that stuff. I do the same thing you do. I just tweet it out a million times, and that's probably why a lot of people don't follow me because they don't want to see it tweeted a million times.
A lot of people do follow you. You have like 70,000 followers or something.
No, that many.
You have 60. I just looked at you. You have 63,000 followers. A lot of people, Jake. Don't sell yourself short.
I'd probably have 100 if I wasn't so ornery on Twitter.
Maybe so. Anyway, at Allen Kidd, if you don't follow Jake, give your head a shake and go figure that out now. I told you about the giveaways. I told you to play in the Pat Mayo Experience Listeners League. The link is in the description. This video and podcast, just like the rankings, just like all the other stuff. You can always find everything on dkplaybook.com. Of course, get into the 3 giveaways I told you about, and especially the audio podcast one. We got to juice those numbers up, just like follow me on Instagram, because we need to juice those numbers up as well. The video, doing great. Thank you all for watching. I'm Pat Mayo. Good luck in Week 7. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!